30 lessons I learned in 30 years. I'm in my 30s. Off top. I'll probably do a scripted one later. But off top, uh, of course, be born. Be born. That should be the first one. Uh, Figure out who your parents are. When we're much younger. Figure out who your teachers are. You know, figure out who your classmates are. But then it gets interesting after that. That's about age 6, age 7. Figure out who your friends are. Age 7, 8, 9. Then figure out if you need friends. Just judging off of how you feel. So I have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. So the fifth one will be figure out emotional intelligence. How your existence and your being makes the next person feel. How to manage everybody who is in your space part time. Then the next one will be, these are the things I learned the past 30 years. The next one will be figure out how to operate around law. Who made the laws? Why were the laws made? Figure out self-awareness. That's what it is. Self-awareness. And self-awareness is the scanner. Is a scanner that looks at you first of all. Looks at the parts of you can see, and the blind side of you. That's the side of you you are not supposed to see, except with the scanner of self-awareness. So when you use that scanner and look at your blind side, that side that other people see, that you don't tend to see, but you look at that, of course, through the lens of other people, and then attempt to understand it and understand why you act the way you do. When you've done that, the same scanner would help you to figure out what this person means by what they are doing, what this person intended from what they said. So if you're able to try to deduce intention, regardless of what they are saying, regardless of what they are doing, navigating the world space will be easier. Most people would say if they would ask a superpower, it would be that of knowing what is actually in somebody's mind. When somebody tells you something, you want to know if they actually mean what they say. But there's a psychological hack to it. There's a knife, there's a scanner. When you hone the knife enough, you hone it with yourself. Understanding yourself, understanding why you behave the way you behave. If you perfect that, you'll be able to understand why people behave the way they behave. So that's 7 now, right? 6 or 7. Okay, so the 8th one will be figuring out if you need spirituality or not. Understanding what you are taught, whether you are born in a Christian environment, a Muslim environment, all of those conversations and that address your connection to a higher source, or that address the need to connect to a higher source. You want to, for yourself, critically look at them, and then attempts to live in that reality and feel for yourself and make a decision for yourself what you would do with that conversation. So the word is figure out spirituality and your need for it or not. So that's 8. 9, of course, figure out how to stay healthy for as long as possible, because a lot of the things we do as leisure, a lot of the things we do as Giving ourselves break overexposes us. Somebody said, we think man is at the top of the food chain, but bacteria is on top, or viruses. When you see people in the hospital where they become these things, these bugs that live with us, ubiquitously. When you see people who have been eating to nothing, you now find out that there's somebody on top of us in the food chain. So figure out the hide and seek game you have to play with bacteria, viruses, parasites, and some of these other ones like hypertension, diabetes. Because sometimes sugar is sweet. Sometimes living sedentary is interesting. Sometimes not doing anything for weeks is what the body feels like doing. Sometimes exercise is painful. Sometimes discipline is painful. So figuring all that out, understanding what will yield what, and choosing choosing a path. Of course, paying attention to cause and effect. So that should be number 8 or 9. Where are we? 8 or 9. So number 10 will be understanding aesthetics, the power of aesthetics, the power of how it appears, how it looks. Is it important to look good or not? Is there anything like fine person privilege for a female, for a male? Is there anything like profiling? How real is it that people profile you just off of your appearance? People make assumptions on what to expect from you just off of how you look. And what do you do with that information? What do you do with that understanding? How do you use it for your own advantage? You know. So that's 10. 11th lesson I've learned in 30 years is understanding the stance of, first of all, strangers. How people treated you when you were younger. Thinking about it now through an adult lens. So most of the things that were done to us were flawed. My father beat me up when I was stealing. I used to steal some money when I was younger. I'm not used to, but yeah, there was a season when a demon spirit of stealing entered, and we were picking some that time mint. Then my father is a banker, and I'll take the money and be sharing it. I'll take it in the night, and then come in the daytime and be sharing it to children on the road. And that's what I was doing with the money. And then when I was caught, the story is a long one. The man used belts to tie me to a stake, to a table, and then gave me some of the most memorable beatings of my life. So thinking about that thing now, that was how the spirit of stealing, or what we can repackage and say and call kleptomania, was beat out of me. Because there was this high and release I was getting from doing that thing at the time. I think for a period of about 4 or 5 days, till I was caught. And from that day, before that day, I wasn't stealing, but it was something I was adventuring, something dangerous. I didn't know how dangerous it was. But then, with a knife like a surgeon, he cut that cancer of stealing out of my life. So thinking about it now, I'm grateful for that. But there are also some other things that some adults did to us, teachers, people who were supposed to be correcting us. When you think about them now, you could see these people were just being tricksters, or were being, you're just taking advantage of us. Maybe a girl yourself too. Some things some people told you, some adult males told you to do. You can tell this person was just manipulating or taking advantage of you, or taking advantage of your naivety. So the ability to look back on those things and really see. And then don't just to look at them and criticize people, but also look at them for yourself and guide what you do with younger people as well. So some of those things that you can look at now and tell, no, this was somebody exploiting me. You don't want to now met that out to anybody. So it's supposed to inform us, to correct us. So that's 11. 12 will be figure out the stance of our parents. A lot of the things our parents were doing. First of all, again, the scam and the skill of self-awareness, so to help you look at some of these things and be able to analyze it in your head. Some of our parents lived emotional lives. The ability to see it for what it is. so that you don't be that type of parent. So me, I would say that I usually say I would chastise a child who deserves to be chastised, regardless of how I feel. So if a child has done something that requires 6 strokes of the cane, the child will get six strokes of the cane, regardless of the big leak or the big good news I just got a minute after. When it's time to bring out 6 strokes of the cane, we'll have to give 6 strokes to correct the child. So the same way, when you're very upset, when you're very angry, you don't hit a child because you may overreact. So the ability to operate outside emotion, understanding the stance of our parents. If your father is that man you want to model yourself after, you want to look at him critically before you now do the modeling. But you want to first of all have a critical look at him, because that is the idol, So you want to be sure that you're modeling the right idol. So you want to be able to come out of emotions and have a critical look at your parents, before you now decide if the things, of course, they deposited some things in you already without your permission, in their genetics and character. But now you're also mirroring some of the things you saw while growing up without even knowing. Those things are like mental programs. But this is the first time you're going to have to look at your father and now look at yourself and see. So if you operate your life on default, you don't pay attention, self-awareness wise. If you do that, you're going to find that everything you're doing is what your father had done before. Everything your life is going to what your father's life, where your father's life ended. But when you pay attention enough, you can veer off that default track. But that it requires effort, So that should be number 12. Having a critical look at our parents without emotions, to be able to see where they were, where they are. To help you understand some of the things they say, some of the things they did, just to be able to be a better quality parent yourself, So that's number 12 or 13. 12. So number 13 would be forgiving our parents. If you don't forgive your parents till you're 30, above 30, you sometimes lose the right to blame your parents, because at that age you're supposed to be completely responsible for most of the outcome or most of the reality you have. So forgiving your parents is going to be more freeing, and it also help you to lock into your life and take complete accountability and responsibility for the outcomes you get. So that's number 13. Number 14 will be adjusting to trends, managing trends. A lot of things have come up that inside, innately, we don't agree with, but they are very popular on the outside. It's happened a lot of times. I wouldn't even want to use examples. I have very good examples. I wouldn't want to use them. So you want to be able to also think independently, regardless of what the crowd thinks. You want to be able to find a way to stand true to your values, regardless of what is popular on the outside. So navigating that very sensitive environment is also something I've figured out in my 30 plus years of being alive. So that's a place we should also pay attention to. And I'll give you an instance. Let me just give you an instance. Things like sexual orientation, things like gender identity, things like just those very sensitive things that you already have a stance on, you have an opinion on, probably a strong opinion on, but maybe counter of what is popular. So the ability to navigate all that, in my 30 plus years. So that's 14, bar. Okay, number 15 would be figuring out the opposite sex. Relationships, your girlfriend, your partner, when you want to settle down, how you want to settle down, what you think about the whole conversation about settling down. Understanding women as a man is very vital. And the word is understanding women. That is understanding the person of a woman, the female gender, understanding how they are before you now decide if you want to change the person. And good luck with that. Or if you want to be with the person or not. You know, that's also what I've learned. I'm supposed to even say what I've learned. Let me go ahead and say what I've learned with that. I've learned that women are emotional beings. A lot of human beings, all of us are emotional. But it's easier for a man to walk away from emotion than for a woman to. And I used to say the hormone estrogen makes it easier for a woman to stay in emotion and see nothing wrong with it. But that's the reason why God put estrogen where He put a child. Because that is where the child is going to be housed for 9 months before the child comes out. So maybe it is needed for that. But at the same time, understanding this is what you get if you decide to couple. It's also very vital. So as to not have to fight yourself. Because when you're married to somebody, two of you are now one. So when you fight this person, you're fighting yourself at that point. You're supposed to accept the person after you've understood them, before you now become couples with them, and then not fight yourself. So that the next lesson 16 will be about mental health. I've understood that depression, mental health issues, all of those things come from fighting your nature. That's where it comes from. That's the source of depression. Depression comes from not paying attention to yourself and doing things. Depression is just mental pain. That's what it is. If you are not aware that your leg is here and you strike your leg with a hammer, you're going to feel a lot of pain. You're going to get sick if you're injured. There's an infection from that event. So depression will happen to a man. I know somebody who is a good man. He's a good man, but he makes money from fraudulent or illegal means. He makes money illegally. He was telling me, he said when he was very, very broke, he was very, very, when somebody is very broke and they smell like they work in the woodwork, a carpenter, when you smell broke, that guy was broke to the point he was smelling like that, and then he made a lot of money, of course, doing what he was doing. And he's a good man across the board. When he was not having money, he was a good man. When he started having money, good man across the board. And he even told me himself, he said that he thought that the feelings he used to have, the feelings of depression he used to have, came from not having money. Once he had money, he realized that those things are still there, And what I could absorb, what I could get from that was maybe what he was feeling before he had cash was actually financial depression that became somatic to where he could feel it. But I'm almost certain that what he started feeling after he had money was, this is a man that does not like to treat people unfairly. He does not agree. This is at his core. He does not agree with cheating people. He does not agree with letting people down. He has very strong, sweet morals, but he makes money from dubious means, and the fraudulent activities are conducted across the coast. So it doesn't feel like it is somebody around you that you're defrauding, but his nature does not like that. So he's doing something his nature does not agree with, but he's not paying attention enough to see it. So he's fighting his own self. He's striking his own feet psychologically. That's what's creating that problem. So again, for yourself, this is my opinion. These are my lessons I learned. So for yourself, have a think about it. When there cannot be an agreed upon opinion on a particular discourse, then it's time for you to think about that thing yourself, independently with your own brain, and see what you think. But figuring out mental health and how to keep your mental clean, how to keep your mental healthy, very, very important as well. I have some things I figured out myself, so that then navigating the manosphere, how to deal with other men, how to deal with people's ego, how to deal with people's esteem, whether it's low esteem, whether it's high esteem, how to get what you want without necessarily hurting the next person's ego. You know, the again, the warfare of psychology in the male environment. That's also a very interesting and important space where I learned a lot. I have a lot of power with men. I have a lot of capacity with handling men, you know. But that came from, again, self-awareness. Again, the ability to understand myself first, so I can be able to understand the next person, why they do the things they do, and to get what I want from a situation that they are involved in. I operate understanding where their stance is and what they are, so that I get what I want selfishly without necessarily poking holes in his nature or fighting his nature or fighting him, if you understand what I mean. So that's 19. Lesson number 20, self-control, sexual continence. That should be the highest one. You know, I have learned that what you are, your kids will become before they start. That's nature first before nurture. Before they start building, working on themselves, discipline, the default program in them is what you were. So what you currently are is what your parents are.